There's a couple of new medications that have come onto the market. Now, what's going on is that we've got increasing demand by individuals that are overweight or obese to access these medications, and we're seeing stock prices go absolutely crazy. So what this means is that these medications work by targeting receptors in the brain that reduce appetite and help people feel fuller for longer. So the message we're getting is it's not all good news. And do you know why? Do you know what it can lead to? Do you know what happens with these medicines? We'll follow on, and you're going to hear all about it in today's episode of Higher Living with Chad. Let's get started. This week, we came across information that affects 1 billion people. 1 billion people in this world are affected by what we're going to talk about. And if we break that down to make it relevant for yourself, with today's population, that means that about 1 in 8 around the world are faced with this. So that could be your family and friends. And this figure has tripled since 1975. And yes, we are talking about obesity. And if we're going to have a look at the next generation, if we're going to have a look at children and young people, while they're not obese, these figures, we know that 1 in 5 are considered overweight. So think about it now. Just do a quick little assessment of your life. Maybe first and foremost, it's your loved ones. Yeah, then it's family, or it could be the other way around, depending on where you are. Then it's cohorts of people, whether it's colleagues at work, whether it's other fellow students, people at the church, wherever you know other people from. Just think about that. And then 1 in 5 is going to be likely on a global level to be overweight or obese. And that's what we're going into today. And so with this, we're branching out. And just before we go forward, if you think this is going to be relevant or you watch this through, please share it and pass it on. To give ourselves a little pat on the back, we just hit our first 1,000 views on YouTube. This is coming up to episode 13 and maybe 14. I'll need to check, but coming up to our first 1,000 views. So we thank you for watching this. And as mentioned, if you can pass this on, it would be fantastic. We're going to be diving into something which we think is pretty interesting, and we're going to be able to tie it all up at the end. And so you'll be able to see. But what we've looked at is that there's a couple of new medications that have come onto the market. And the demand for these medications, the manufacturers can't keep up. Now, what's going on is that we've got increasing demand by individuals that are overweight or obese to access these medications, and we're seeing stock prices go absolutely crazy, as you're going to be able to see right here. Actually taking it to Europe's most valuable company, as we're going into today, is one of the companies behind these medications that you're hearing about. And of course, we're talking about Ozempic and Wegovy. So 2 medicines that we're talking about. And there's another one that's coming to market as well that has just passed clinical trials that we'll be diving into as well. Now, what's interesting when we go on this, and just to be clear, this isn't medical information. We don't have any opinion on these medicines, on the effectiveness or the safety of these medicines. But what we're reporting on is very interesting information that's been come out online. And when we have a look at how many people this affects, and we're seeing some of the statistics that we will get into as well, it's not all good news, right? So when we're looking at these extremely popular medications, when you see people that are starting to lose lots of weight around the world, which is increasingly suggesting that they may be healthier and living a better quality of life, etc., it's not all good news. So the message we're getting is it's not all good news. And do you know why? Do you know what it can lead to? Do you know what happens with these medicines? We'll follow on, and you're going to hear all about it in today's episode of Higher Living with Chad. Let's get started. When we go into topics like this, you need a disclaimer. This is not medical information. I am not a doctor. I'm not going to pretend I'm a doctor. And intentionally, we're going to avoid an in-depth analysis into these medicines. We're going to give you a decent overview, because if you haven't heard about these medicines as yet, hopefully today you will walk away with an understanding about what they are, how you could use them, how others could be utilizing them, some of the side effects that are associated, and with this big warning that has now come out about it. So we're not going to go into that. The best place for you to get your own information is from your doctor. The only message that you hear consistently from us is seek professional assistance from your doctor before making decisions. And the most important thing that you can do is be an active participant in your own healthcare. You be an active participant. So at times we provide a little bit of information, and it's up for you to be able to investigate and take control of your own health. All right. So that's what you're going to get from us consistently. So let's have a look. We're going to break this down into a number of sections so you can come along with us and have this information in a way which is, again, packaged up. It's going to be your weekend, hopefully, when you're watching this. Package this up so it's very easy to follow on. You get all the key information that is required and packaged up, hopefully, in a way that we can make entertaining by doing things such as this. Yeah. So let's get started. Firstly, let's pull some stats from the World Health Organization. And what do we know? So we know that the global prevalence of obesity and diabetes is continuing to increase. And secondly, while people may live in this world of me and not care too much about their fellow neighbor, their fellow human, or people on the other side of the world, because they're out of sight, out of mind, the biggest thing that we need to be mindful of, I think, when we're looking at the changing cultural dynamics that we're collectively living through, is that the burden of obesity and diabetes is shifting to low and middle income countries. I think that is super important in today's climate, to then be able to think about where is this going and where is the burden of healthcare going to be. And if we're looking at pulling everyone up to have equal opportunity, let's start from the beginning about where we see global trends shifting from. And that is all from the World Health Organization. So why the hype? What is the hype around this? And what are we seeing? So in August, we know the big drug that has come out, Wegovy. It's an obesity drug. And we know from clinical trials that it has reduced the incidence of serious cardiovascular events like stroke and heart attack by 20% in overweight patients who have a history of heart disease, but not diabetes. As mentioned before, there's a new drug coming to market and we're not going to mention it, right? But in clinical trials, it's shown that patients that were taking this new medicine, which is a similar class of drugs that are called GLP1 drugs that we're going to get into in a little bit, but participants throughout the study lost 50 pounds, which is equivalent to around 23 kilograms. Yeah. So fairly significant data. And I know you may be thinking, well, does it come with any side effects? Because we know from more recent history, particularly with psychiatric medications, that a lot of options have unwanted side effects, which increasingly places us in this new position where we're seeing potentially new emerging medicines that can match efficacy, i.e. can give you the outcome and hopefully eliminate some of those unwanted side effects that come along with it. Yeah, so to start, why is it a hype? 20%, that's a fairly significant number in reducing serious cardiovascular incidents, and individuals in a study are showing to lose 50 pounds or 23 kilograms. Like, it's significant, very significant. And that's why it's capturing some of the buzz. I'm reading this, as you can see, but I'm doing this in a way to give you this information. And I just want to make sure that how I'm presenting today is factual, and we'll be able to provide references throughout as well. We don't have any intention. We don't have a bias in any of this. We're just really interested in showing you the information and getting to the big dangers, which you'll continue to hear about. But firstly, we're going to provide this information to you. So these medications are a class of drug, as mentioned before, called GLP1 drugs. And the current demand, The manufacturers can't keep up with global demand. These medications are designed to suppress appetite, mimicking a gut hormone, which is released after eating. So what this means is that these medications work by targeting receptors in the brain that reduce appetite and help people feel fuller for longer. So if you ever have challenges with your weight, if you have experienced individuals that have issues with their weight, if you are able to then target the receptors in the brain that reduce appetite and help people feel fuller for longer, we're looking at lifestyle change as well. So we're tapping in to how an individual lives their life, as well as getting these results. So the drugs can come in to have an effect, but also maybe looking at other changes that result to, wow, I started to feel better. What else can I do now in addition to taking the medicine, right? So sounds all good so far, right? And it's like, what's the catch? What is the catch? What is the catch? So here's the catch, right? It's not unwanted hair growth. No, it's not clawed hands, and it's not problems down here. No, it's none of the above, actually. Okay, so let's look at side effects. Okay, so side effects. Safety is essential when we're looking at clinical trials. There's a process that we need to follow through, and it is, are these options safe? Are they effective? Can they be safe and effective at scale? Then we take it into the real world, and we want what's called pharmacovigilance to then ensure, okay, now people have taken these medicines. Now they've gone through extensive clinical trial programs, and now they're in the public. Let's monitor that. And there's also other incentives for pharmaceutical companies and biotech companies to complete that real world data in a population, but that's for another day. Side effects. So this must be the issue. And if you have a look on Google, you do a look, they're going to come up, and people are talking about all these different side effects. And again, I am not a doctor, and this is not medical information. So please don't take it as all I'm doing is providing you with information that we've looked at through our own investigation, and we encourage you to do the same. We didn't go to Google search. We looked at the results from the clinical trial. And it says, in terms of safety and tolerability, the study identified the most common side effects as gastrointestinal. They were mild to moderate in severity and occurred mostly during dose escalation. Okay, so there were side effects. They were mild to moderate, reported in the study, but we do know that they now needs to go into a further clinical trial. So it's gone from an earlier phase, and they're going to then expand that population. So the data on these medicines is still very early. So we don't know. While the FDA has approved some of these medications, and we'll show that right here, and that's going to be a big factor in terms of what we next discuss, the message you're hearing from us is there's still a lot of unknown. We don't know. It looks like people are getting some benefit out of it, and it looks like it can be great. There's some side effects that you need to be aware of, but more research is required. And that's not for us to sit on the fence. That is how we stand. That is our positioning. So the other big thing to look at is it can be very expensive, which then creates problems in terms of access. So typically reports indicate that if you're in America, you're going to be paying about $1,000 per month to access these medicines. And reimbursement pathways are not widely available as yet. Okay, so it is very expensive. $1,000 a month. Is that what we're talking about, though? Is that the big downside? It's not. Let's keep going. So what does it mean for the manufacturers? Yeah. So last year, parent company sold nearly $2.5 billion. Yeah. $2.5 billion worth of these medicines. And it's expected to increase by 16 billion only by 2027. It's not far away. And their profit is expected to go up to 16 billion. What this has occurred is now the most valuable company in Europe, which has a valuation of $420 billion, yeah, is the maker of these medicines. So big numbers. This isn't talking about M's. It's not 420 million. It's $420 billion is the maker of this. Again, Chad, what are the losers? Who are the losers? Let's get to it. So what's been reported is there's two main losers within all of this. And it's again, it's not all about the wins, it's about the downside. And the report looked at the impact. You ready? The report looked at the impact this could have on brands such as Oreo, Cadbury, Nestle, Heinz, McDonald's, KFC, and Burger King for the decreased demand that these medicines could have in terms of lifestyle corrections that are associated with the changes made by patients. So we're looking at outcomes for individuals that are reportedly to show it's a breakthrough therapy. Again, we need to look at this in more detail, but the downside is that McDonald's, KFC, Oreo, and Cadbury may be losing money, and this is a real downside. The next big loser is the medical healthcare systems in America, because over 40% of Americans are obese. And so we know that if people are obese, they're more likely to suffer from cardiovascular disease. They're more likely to have various cancers, arthritis, and dementia. And it's estimated that the costs associated with obesity in America on an annual basis are almost $500 billion a year. So while this may be a good thing for patients, it's not good for healthcare. It's not good for the fast food companies and big food that are going to lose funds because people may be making better choices and may be more active participants in their healthcare. So why this information? So regardless of what we may think about these medications, and we don't have an opinion, it's too early for us to determine, and it's not our positioning. What we want to be very clear about is the following. The message you're going to get from us is all about you being an active participant in your healthcare, right? And we know we looked at to give it a little bit more relevance to maybe our usual audience. And if you're new to it, hello, welcome. And we'll be following on with similar themes over the coming weeks. But the biggest thing we looked at is if we have a look at this article that we did this week, which was part of the Prozac revolution, we know that when we explored this article around mental health options, that if we have a look at the efficacy of psychiatric medicines, we know that they come with unwanted side effects and questionable effectiveness around how effective it's going to be for yourself, your loved ones, your family and friends to then be able to recover from the challenges they experience with their mental health. Because we've got these drugs that are kind of outdated, but we're in a system that isn't changing. And so we're seeing increasingly people go, we need better mental health services, but we're utilizing the same solutions, which brings us to the question that whenever there is a change and there's disruptive technologies or disruptive medicines that are coming through, and at the moment, what we're focusing on, well, we're focusing on a range of different options, but they do include cannabis and psychedelics. And we think, and we see through some early data, this can be a revolutionary option for individuals with their mental health in terms of medical conditions, chronic medical conditions, and chronic disease. But we're still in an era where we're yet to have full integration into healthcare because of the lack of data. And always when there's a imbalance of power, and there's a shifting of power that can create new opportunities, there is going to be some downside. And unfortunately, what's happening with $420 billion that has come to a market cap and valuation of the parent company of these options is that there's downside for healthcare systems and big food. Now there's winners and losses, and times change. If we have a look at the car industry, if we have a look at every industry, there are different changes that occur. And again, without getting too deep on that, we needed to present this information today to show the wider relevance of you as an individual being an active participant in your healthcare. And if you are looking at options like cannabis and psychedelics that you want to integrate into your life, come to OnTracka, start anonymously recording what your experiences are. There will be updates, as mentioned, in the next 30 days, which are going to be a much better experience for you. And we've got a whole host of clinical trials that are going to be available and different options around the world for you to take part in, because change can start with you. And if we have credible, reliable, and large enough data sets, and we have the clinical trials, collectively and together, we can walk towards a new era in healthcare. That is exciting. And this example is clear evidence of the need of us coming together and working to help place us all in a better trajectory and better positioning for future generations and for yourselves, your family, and your loved ones. My name is Chad, and we've come to you quickly today to come back and explore some of the areas that are a part of higher living. That's all for today. Thank you very much.